You're listening to The Green Card with me, Katie Green. Today, I'm speaking to the most amazing, beautiful, wonderful, hilarious Hatty Preston. She is one of my closest gals, a very talented and accomplished actress and comedian, and I'm very excited for you to meet her. So here it is.
You asking me to be the co-host?
Yeah. Hello, will you be the co-host?
I've got this is the wildest job interview of my life. The cameras are rolling, and you're like, and you'll co-host,
and you'll be it. We talk about everything green. Welcome. Now let's talk about yellow.
But that's how you operate. That is what's so amazing to me. It's like yesterday when we had you had two things to do in Soho House. I was like, send that email message to that person. Send that email.
Yeah.
I think I said it 15 times when every time you'd be like, oh, actually, something else I thought about. And I was like, email the thing, message the person. And you were like, yeah, okay, yeah. Oh, actually, do you know, as with the email, and I was like, I feel like your brain does this incredible thing of like, if my brain's tunnel vision like that, when there's a thing to do, that's all I can see, that's all I can focus on, that's what happened. Your brain is like a sort of fan out. And so you have something to do, and then it gets lost in this ether of like rainbows and like it's like one of those party poppers. You have a thing to do, so you pop it, and it's just like, and all this other stuff's in there too. And it's amazing.
Is it? I think it's just undiagnosed.
It's like you were timing though. Like if someone says, be there at 7, I will go. Right, so absolutely leave an hour, 6. So I have to start getting ready at 5. Can give myself a minute, grab a coffee at 5:30. I'll be ready to go. A little bit of wiggle room in case my hair isn't working. I feel like someone says to you, be there at 7, and you're like, the cool thing about me is that time bends. So I'll just be there at 7. There's no idea of like what that means in terms of a departure time.
I've always had an issue with it, and I don't know how to fix it.
But like, remember the other day when I was like, always like, we're going to do a meeting in Camden, and I knew you working in Battersea, you're like, I'll be there in 25 minutes. I was like, what are you going to fucking like evaporate? Like, what's that Harry Potter thing where they like disapparate? It's like, how are you going to beam yourself out of Battersea?
Yeah, apparate.
Apparate.
Yeah, I think so.
But I was like, but no one has ever taken 25 minutes to get from Battersea. Like, no one in the world has ever taken. And But I think it maybe for you comes from a place of like quite a lovely thing, which is like this optimistic blind faith in things. You're like, yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, of course I'll be there.
Yeah.
And it's a lovely thing that you have that optimism coursing through your body.
Yeah, I think it's
madness.
I think it's not fun. I'm like, just like, fuck, why can't I just never? And like, okay, like with yesterday, I was like, I gave myself plenty of time.
Yeah, I know.
And still fucked it.
Well, you didn't fuck. You actually there a bit earlier than I thought you were going to be there. So
oh, that's
huge.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's cool that.
I hold on to things that are more with my Latina identity, and being late is one of them, you know?
Oh, so you're making this a cultural thing. So you're making me culturally offensive then.
Yeah.
Okay, great. No, that's fine. Yeah. So we're going to bring guests on to tell them why actually all my flaws are because I'm Latina and make them feel bad.
Exactly.
That's a great USP for your podcast.
Yeah. Hi, welcome to the Verde card.
Welcome. How to offend a Latina in 60 minutes. No, you're right. It's me.
Hattie did it in 38.
No, that's good.
Green card to any country. Right now.
Green card to any country in the world right now. I would always, up until last year, have said the States, like, because I love it out there, and you know how much I love it out there. I mean, I did Hawaii this summer, as you know. Thank you. I just want to drop that in. And it was for a wedding. It's not because I'm a big time. And we had this amazing day, me and my best mate, and we were paddleboarding with turtles, and sunset. Okay. And we just watched the sun come down while we were sat on paddleboards on the ocean. And you're like, yeah. And we got back, we had paddled in afterwards with our amazing guide, and her fella turned up, who is the most attractive man I have ever seen in my life. Bear in mind, the person I was with, Tom, is
so
usually
attractive.
the most attractive person I've ever seen in my life. And her fella turned up, who was Thor. No, it was just Chris Hemsworth. And he turned up, and he was like, helping her ding the board back in the van. And he was like, oh, did you catch church? And she was like, yeah. And they refer to sunset as church. They refer to it as church. So they're like, did you catch church? And because that, and I was like, That's if you're gonna worship a thing,
Right.
if you're gonna have a moment in your day or week which is just about you connecting with a higher power, yeah, fucking sunset
That's beautiful.
in the ocean is church. And what's our church in England? Like a bunch of like tightly wound, waspy women stood there being like, I'm a good person, I'm a good person, I'm a good person. Like singing these songs and it's their church is a fucking sunset with the turtles. Beautiful. Yeah, big time. That was a moment where I could live in Hawaii. I couldn't live in Hawaii because of this. But
Hawaii scares me because I get island fever.
What does that mean?
Like it scares me that I'm on an island in the middle of nowhere.
Really?
Yeah.
What's that then?
Like
what? But that to me is the best thing. No one can get me.
Well, it just also means I can't leave. Like
Do you know you can? Do you know that there's like planes?
Yeah, but what if they all?
No, I see. Like a disaster movie. Yeah.
I don't know. Like I also I mean, I've only ever been to Maui, but
did you love it?
I did like it. I got really sunburned.
I feel that.
Yeah.
Do you think that might have been a planning thing again? Like you didn't take sun cream?
I think.
Or you had blind optimism. Do you think you had blind optimism? Were you like, I won't get
I always
today?
have blind optimism.
Yeah, it's my favorite thing about you, and is also like the thing that is going to kill you. Is your blind optimism. It will because it's a lovely quality and the most dangerous one you own, which is nice. Just thought I'd tell you that on podcast.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. We're being vulnerable.
With witnesses, yeah.
we're really airing it out.
Dredging.
This is our journey.
This is. What would am I allowed to ask you or am I the guest? What would your green card be?
I think it would be Brazil. I think Brazil would always.
That is your happy place a bit.
It is my happy place.
Why is it your happy place? What is it that it does?
I think it's cultural as well. Like I think like the first time I ever went to Brazil, I met a few friends who were like some of my closest friends to this day, and they were so open. Like anyone who met them was like their friend and in their group, and I've never felt so included so quickly, and.
That's fucking what I mean. Yes, because that's the beautiful thing, and I found that when I went to Chicago. But that must have made England a fucking disaster for you.
I mean, it's such a culturally, it's so different, and I think that's why I'm always like, I gotta go back to Brazil. I gotta go and I feel like I just need that energy sometimes.
I do think we have to remember we had great moments in 2022. Like if we actually list our great moments in 2022, there's a fucking lot of them. But I just think we allowed for a bit of drizzle that we didn't need.
But I also think it goes into self-worth. I think with a lot of these things that happen, it's like it's a build-up of inevitability. Like it's like it was a there was gonna be a breaking point. Like I know with some of my drizzles, I'm like it was gonna happen.
Your drizzle, the monsoon came.
I do think it's the universe saying you've been talking about this and you've been thinking about this, so now we're doing it.
Is it the bit like doesn't the mum bird like literally push her babies out of the nest?
Right.
Like, isn't that a thing? Like it's like it gets to a point and she's like, nah, fuck it, poof. And if they splat, they splat. But she's like, no, I reckon they'll work it out on the way down. And and that's sort of how they. Do you think the universe is like mum bird where they're just like, doosh, get it done?
I think so.
Yeah, I feel like we do skirt with splatting though, you and I. Like there's we skirt with the splat. I think we we work it out way close to the bottom. Like,
we're
like that fucking parachute comes up like by the top of Tesco's. Do you know what I mean? Like it should have come up way before, but we're like, no, do right at the end. Maybe it'll just work itself out.
Yeah.
We need to shoom earlier.
Yeah. But I think that's like fear. That's fear that stops you from.
Or do you think it's trust? Do you think that?
Fear and trust.
Where you're like, I think the ground will just keep going down. It's like, no, it won't. It's fucking coming at you now. Now is the time. Now.
Yeah.
And it takes, like I said, like smelling the car park before you're like, oh, it's coming.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Rather than when everyone else has shot their parachute way up. Maybe we're legends. Maybe it's not fear. Maybe we're fucking brave.
Yeah, we're going out without a parachute.
We're like adrenaline junkies who are like, no, I'm going to do it right at the end. And everyone else is pussying up around the mountaintop.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We just have to brand this differently. We're actually brave as fuck.
Is brave a word that you would use to describe yourself?
Brave is a word I always want to use to describe myself. I think it's my it's the quality of person I prioritize most highly, or I esteem most highly. So my frustration a lot of the time comes when I feel like I'm not being very brave.
Right.
I think I just sometimes get brave a bit confused. I think I'm being very brave, and actually I'm not really being very brave at all. So, and my friends, and that's what some of them recently were like, "You're absolutely someone who's brave. We all that view you as someone who's brave." But I think oftentimes it's because I'm brave by their standards, but actually it's a very different thing to be brave by your own.
Right. But in what scenarios?
I love scenarios.
Oh my God. In what scenarios?
That's a green card thing.
Yeah, that is a green card thing.
scenarios.
Yeah.
Fucking brilliant.
Oh, wow. Love that.
You're so good at English language. Scenario, keep it.
I do speak 2 other languages, so that's why I get confused.
And I know scenario in all of them.
In what scenarios?
Yeah.
Do you find yourself feeling like you're not being brave?
Romance.
100%. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we should talk about bravery and romance in our capacity, because I think what this should be is, I think we have to put a line, and then we have to move forward and hold ourselves accountable for what we want to see our romance life look like.
Yeah.
Because I think we've been really, really like, why is it like this? And why is somebody not loving me right now while I'm inside my home?
Yeah, I know. We've both got to get better at that. But also, the thing that winds me up the most, the thing that I think I probably beat myself up about the most, is so post 2016 when we're all kicked off, I actually stayed incredibly brave for a very long time. I went into other things with other people, and I had the following summer I had this great summer of shagging this guy and we had such fun. It wasn't ever going to go anywhere or mean anything, but I was so open to it.
Wait, can I ask where you were where you were?
Physically underneath.
Yeah. What position?
I was on the bottom, and then I moved to the top, and then it kind of depended on the weather. And then she's
doing
a
the thing.
Yeah,
yeah.
Oh, she spins. She spins.
No, can I ask, in what, were you in the UK?
Yeah, in
okay.
London. And it was just fucking, I was in the happiest flat I've ever lived in. I was living with Rose, Robin and Fiona. I was in the Palace. And he was younger than me and had always had a bit of a crush on me, I think, from acting stuff, and was never someone I'd have gone for. And because I was in this fuck it, this hurricane season of just fuck it. I mean, I was drinking so much and I was working so much, but there was no order to anything. I'm quite an ordered person who has thank you. We didn't need the eye roll, but yeah. Okay. But very ordered. But I wasn't. It's the most, I'm going to sound like an American now. It's the most present I've ever been. Every week was just what it was. Every day was just what it was. Every night when I cried, it was just what it was. I was so, and this person turned up out of nowhere, and I was like, no fucking way am I gonna. But then I was like, yeah, okay, it's on. And oh God, it was sexy. It was such good sex, and it was a really hot summer, so it was sweaty sex, and I was in this little room in Battersea.
This is not the sweaty one.
This is not the sweaty guy. He actually
is
wasn't a sweaty guy. We just had sweaty sex, and but I loved that, and and then I'd had a one night stand in Barcelona when I'd gone there, and there was this other guy on the street, and I think I actually stayed very brave for a very long period of time after the breakup. It wasn't breakups that made me go, Phoom. And then when I went to Chicago, that was a fucking free for all. So I stayed brave. I did stay brave. What dicks me off about the last 3 years has been the thing that happened with the American back before I left Chicago.
What are we calling him?
Oh no, we used to call him. So me and my friends, we called him the Brave Little Crab. We always used to call him the Brave Little Crab because he was.
He had crabs.
He had crabs. Oh my God. I wouldn't have put it past him. That was
pubes anymore.
The unbelievable thing about that is I didn't catch an STD. I remember finding out what a fuck boy fuck boy, and I actually say it with respect this time because his numbers were so incredible and it was so unexpected that it was like Anchorman. I was like, I'm not even mad, I'm impressed. This is unbelievable that you've managed to get away with this for so long. Unbelievable. But we used to call him Brave Little Crab because whatever I did, and I was awful to him, I was horrible to him, he just came back. He just always came back. He just always came back and always got in. So yeah, he's the Brave Little Crab. But it turned out he was also the lying Brave Little Crab. Okay. And I think what's annoyed me after that one is what he managed to do, because of the deceit and because of being lied to, and also because right at the very bitter end, I actually started to consider him as a genuine option. Like I hadn't at all, and the sex was unbelievable, and that was why he was sticking around. But right towards the end, I started being like, oh, maybe this guy, maybe I've got this wrong. Maybe I should give him the time of day. Maybe I should trust him a little bit. The minute I did that, the house of cards came down, and everything came out of what had been doing and what had been happening. And then 3 months later, lockdown happened. So what happened off the back of that was me being hurt and surprised, which I don't think's ever really happened before. I don't think I've ever been,
but also
betrayed. Massively betrayed, but massively sideswiped, which I'm not good at. I don't get sideswiped really. I'll always know what the situation is, and like when the end is nigh, when it's circling the drain, like I always have an idea. But I was like, woof. And then to go into lockdown, so I was then alone. I was then living alone, nannying all the time, and I think you flip into my coping mechanism with him to deal with that would usually, probably in any other situation, I mean, this is when you just got over, hadn't we? We'd been friends about 3 months by that point, and would usually have been like, fuck it, let's go out drinking and let's do this and let's cry in a bar and let's like shag strangers and whatever. But lockdown happened, so I got robbed of my usual incredibly healthy coping mechanisms, which is to get pissed, cry in a bar and shag strangers. And then it kept going, and then it kept going, and then I was older, and then
you had to fester in that. I think the worst part about lockdown is having nothing else to think about.
Yeah.
Except like festering on those emotions of being like, he did this to me, he did that. How did I not know? How did I let this happen to me? And it just is a spiral of like, what's wrong with me?
And because I'm an accountability girl, like I will never shift the blame. Really, I'd always take responsibility for what I can before I do.
That's quite good, because I'll always blame him.
Yeah, I know, but yours is right. But I do always think, look to yourself first, and then it won't hopefully happen again. So I looked to myself first, and I was like, and the only thing I could come up with, the only thing that made sense to me was, it's okay, this is the universe telling you that relationships aren't for you.
Right.
That's the only thing that made sense to me was, it's all right, you let your guard down for a minute, and you haven't for the best part of 6 years, but you did. And it ended like this. So that is the universe telling you relationships aren't for you. And you're going to have a lovely time shagging different people and having 4-month-long dalliances and like meeting people and having these wild romances, but then it not going anywhere. And that's
this was the you that I met.
This was the you, exactly.
This was the you I was like, wow, this girl does like believes that relationships aren't for her. And that was so
That was my thing.
That was
Do you remember
your
I started
thing.
doing that thing, which is so cool? I started painting the nail on my ring finger, on my engagement finger, gold. So everything else would be its own color, and then that would be gold. And my whole thing was I'm the only person who can put gold on this finger. Like it was, and that became this like.
It was your identity.
Fierce, but like fiercely protected identity, because it was the only thing worse than being betrayed like that for me would be me letting it happen again. So you go, well, you just don't let it happen again. And I think it took, again, this is one of those where I think all my friends watched this and just had to go,
right.
Okay.
It was so interesting though, because I was the only you that I had. That was the first you that I met. So it was very much so.
Because we had 2 months before I went back to Chicago, and I had that week with him.
Yeah.
And then you knew all about that, because it was like, oh, it's on the cards, but I really shouldn't be, because he's not the best guy, but fuck it, I almost definitely will. And then the aftermath.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting because like, I think the thing with you is that you're so transparent. Mm-hmm. And I think that you're so upfront with what you want. I think anyone who is open and upfront and vulnerable kind of expects that back. And I think when you're lied to, and especially when it was somebody who you did not expect at all, then that's, I think, when it's like, oh fuck. Because I think that being lied to, I think, completely messes with your mind, especially when you're somebody who's like, are you fucking kidding me? I have given you full transparency for the last X amount of whatever, and that's what I get back.
Well, that was also wild about it, is I'd been so transparent. I mean, I say it was horrible to him, but it was horrible to him because I was transparent. Like I said from the off, I was like, I don't want to be your girlfriend. We're never going to be in a relationship. I don't really fancy you that much. But if you're happy with this situation,
Right.
great, because I'm having a lovely time. I slept with someone else while we were seeing each other, and I told him, I was like,
Yeah.
because I actually like this person. So I'd been sleeping with him
Right.
before. And I was like, I mean, like I said, Chicago was a good time. But I was so transparent to the point that I'd take getting into trouble for stuff. And he'd be
Right.
like, no. I was like, I'm allowed. This
Yeah.
is the gig. So what was so wild about being lied to on the scale that I was I was like, I never made it impossible for you to tell the truth. I made it so easy for you to be like, oh, by the way, I'm also sleeping with other people, like 1,000 other people, and also lying to you about the places we're staying and where I've been and whatever. Like, I was like, it's so baffling to me that you are given. It's like someone in a polyamorous relationship who keeps it to himself. You're like, but you're literally in one where you can do whatever you like. All I ever asked was like, be clean, be safe, don't be a dick. Like, don't do it with another female comic because it's just like shit where we eat. Do you know what I mean? We don't want that.
Yeah.
But like was wild because I was like, you had a blank canvas on which to be completely truthful,
Right.
and opted to not.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's so good because like I've been lied to, but yeah, they had. I mean, I think that some people just fucking love a lie.
I think it's a power thing.
I think
the brave little crab was a power thing. Like it was his only currency of power. Yeah. He was like, I fucking pulled another one over.
I think some people love manipulating. I think it is a power thing.
Yeah.
And I also think it's, I mean, really rooted in insecurity and whatever and all that. But I think there is something that when you're compulsive and when you're like, that's your thing, it's just hard to stop. Whereas like I can never imagine to like, it hurts me thinking to even move on from somebody. Like I'm like, oh, I know. Like, and I'm like, I say everything and I'm like, why did I do that?
I know.
But I think people use, sometimes people equate being vulnerable and being honest with weakness.
I think they do. I think it's funny you say that because I think I'm very honest. I think I'm not very vulnerable unless it's to inner circle people.
Right.
Whereas the issue I've always had with how I think you've got treated in the past is you are someone who's happy to be vulnerable and open, but also kind, like very generous, and I think that gets shat on. I think there's a certain type of person who gets shat, who uses that, absolutely sees that as a weakness, and is like, oh, Katie's always going to give the benefit of the doubt, or look for how to be kind and giving rather than to withhold it. And I think that's when yours gets taken advantage. I think I'm very honest and very transparent, but I would say only in an inner circle will be like, no, she can be pretty vulnerable.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing that stops me from like going and dating, because I'm like, the thought to be vulnerable again with somebody is like I just feel like once I've done it. Like I think vulnerability is exhausting.
I think it's exhausting. It's
like, okay, I've already done it with you. I know it's safe. I know this is a safe space. And then you do it with somebody else and you're like, oh, they've completely taken advantage of that. I can't think to do it again with somebody else.
Do you know what? I agree with exactly what you're saying, but I actually think having done now for the best part of 2.5 years, I'm probably coming out of it now, but like the other side of it, which is to be so fucking heavily armored that you could be sent to Ukraine. Do you know what I mean? Like to be like so fucking jacked up.
Oh yeah, fucking with like, imagine you showing up in Ukraine and being like, I have totally armored my heart and soul.
Guys, you can't come near the goods.
Is that a drone?
She's on like a caterpillar track, just like like no one's getting in here. It's Hurricane Hatty. Like let me tell you, from doing like,
why are we single?
Why don't they get us? Having done that for 2.5 years, that is so much more exhausting. Like it is exhausting to what I found.
Well, you're in the army.
I'm in the army. I'm pro bono. Like I would be such an asset to the military, and I've trained myself for free. Like, right. Like I this stage, I don't even think like blood would come out if I got cut. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, oh no, you know, like one of those like speech bubbles, like, oh, ow. Like you're so heavily armored that That's way more exhausting.
Yeah.
It's so much more exhausting, and it's and because you're carrying this like douche, and I don't know, like I'm so lucky. I am, and I keep banging on about it. I'm so lucky with my mates and Tom. Actually, over the summer, like we were in Hawaii having a very romantic, non-romantic holiday, because it's never allowed to be romantic apparently. And he was like, "Prez, what are we doing about this dating?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's fine. It's gonna come. It's gonna come. Like it's happening." He was like, "Nah, mate." He's like, "Your light's off," and it was the first time.
This is so
where he was like, I think he's watched it from the front row for the last 2.5 years and has seen me go through it and seen me go up and down and have moments and then like someone but not like someone at all, but no not tell them at all. And has sort of got to the point where he was like, it's not even your lights off, like it's not, and it was such, and he always bides his time on the chat, so he's very good for that. But it was definitely like had best intentions, but like it's, you're not even entertaining it, and as a result,
wait, explain the lights off thing, because I think this is a really,
so the
really
lights
good
off thing we talked about. So with taxis, so and it goes both ways. We know guys, and we've spoken about them, who are in relationships. We know they're in relationships. Some of them have kids, and their lights on. And you're like, nah. Like this is the one whose lights on, and it shouldn't be on, my guy. But your lights on.
But your lights on.
And like, there's something to think about.
They're ready to get somebody in there.
Then there are some guys who we wish their lights were on. I'm not going to say names, but that are not on. And I'm sorry, but they're not on. Their lights are not on. And then,
are you talking about? Who are you talking about?
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
God, he's so hot.
Stop it. His light is off. His light is off, and that is a thing. And then there's people whose light should be on. AKA single McGee's. Our light should be on.
We're just driving past
but
them.
We're just like, I don't even think our fucking taxi lights are off. I think we've got fucking blindfolds on. Do you know what I mean? Like it's at the point where, and it's having the thing about a taxi drive around with its lights on is you don't know who you're going to pick up, do you? You don't know who you're going to pick up, but the fact is you're open to being picked up. Like, that is the risk you run. Like an absolute shithead could get in the back. For sure. A fucking shithead could get in the back. But that's the thing about having your light on. That just happens. Then a wonderful person's going to get in the back. And that's, I get in the back is a horrible way of doing this.
You have to wait.
Get in the back.
Get in the back.
Like, get in the back.
That's how we're selling ourselves. Get in the back.
Get in the back.
No, you know what it's, we're like, Stephanie and I the other day were trying to get a taxi and it was empty and it had its lights on and then it saw us and turned its light off.
Right.
And then as soon as it left, it turned the light back on again, and that's how we are.
That's how we are, because when we're together,
we're like, we're single.
We agree to turn our lights on. Like we always agree to turn our lights on, and then we're all charming and we're great, and we put on a lash and we have a lovely time. As soon as someone, actually, do you remember that guy when we had our meeting yesterday in boot camp, and that guy came over, and I was like,
oh my god, that hot man.
And you went bright red.
Yes,
he
as
was
I do.
Obviously
that's why this wall is this
he
color.
was obviously interested and was like giving it the eye and like, oh my god, so what was your name? And you literally were like, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? He's so hot. You're so hot. He obviously likes you. And what you've done is it was like watching you with the light switch just being like, I was like, get me out.
Do you know
like,
what?
It was, and then you sat down and you were like, and it was like, just keep the light on. And it was amazing to watch because he was so obviously game. And you just, it was like, no.
I do this all the time though.
I know.
I do this, like there was a guy who like works around me who I had been obsessed with like since I started working. And every time I see him, I just
fall apart.
Perfect. And then he started saying hi. And I'm like,
light off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other day I saw him, he was walking and I was walking. And I was like, he was like, hey, how are you? And I was like, I'm good. How are you? And I was going to fully engage in conversation, but then I realized my helmet was on my head while I was walking. And I'm like, oh my God, why is this my life? Like that is the fucking, I'm not even in the car.
Were you just walking down the street with a helmet?
I don't know where else to put it when it's awkward in my hands.
Do you think he was coming to talk to you because he thought he needed escorting to work? He was like, clearly the world is a pretty dangerous space for this girl. If she walks down the street with a helmet, maybe I should help her. Like, that was the equivalent of a man taking a blind person's elbow, being like, do you want some help, madam? Fuck me, Katie.
Me just being like, man,
Walk around with your helmet on.
these construction sites, am I right?
Oh my God.
Oh my God. No, and I'm like, and after that, I was just like, I'm like, fuck, why do I do this to myself? I'm like, I'm never that girl who's like, hey, how are you?
I know, but we've seen those girls. You know, the ones who just like slip into like
I've
flirt
never
vibes. You're like,
because
wow.
I can maintain flirt vibe, and then the second something like it's like about if there's gonna be a kiss happen, it'll be like, I used to wear an eye patch when I was a kid, like. Like it'll be like the word. I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, genuinely, what's wrong with me?
Do you think you're giving them like a swerve card? Like,
I know.
Like, just before you do this, I want you to know.
Well, because I have this theory that like people always think that I'm something different. Like,
No,
I feel
I know,
like
they
people
do.
are like.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm really a loser. Like, I'm really like, I was
Shrek.
bullied.
Yeah.
I love Shrek. Like, I do like weird shit all the time. Like,
So it's almost like you don't want them to buy the car until
but
you've
I
absolutely explained.
but-
You'd be the worst estate agent in the world. You'd be the person like walking around the house being like, it is amazing. It is 4 bedrooms. One of them is like to fall down any moment. There's also a ghost in the kitchen. We think we have a rattlesnake in the utility room. Like, it's like,
But
sell
please?
the fucking house.
yeah, no, I think that's what I do. I undersell. We talk about this all the
a lot.
time
Yeah.
about underselling.
But I think it's a belief. It's belief in the product ultimately. Like I feel like I have to go in because I don't. I think the opposite is true because the physical shell view that Katie Green comes in is what it is, which is obviously like a fucking 10. And you then feel like, oh shit, what if I have missold? What if they think they're buying this thing and then I turn out to be like, oh, like Shrek loving, Hufflepuff living Katie
I'm
Green.
a Gryffindor.
You have a bit of a Hufflepuff in you actually, and I think that's something we need to talk about more. Like, but what's for the next? Kate, do you think you don't have Hufflepuff? You think you have no ounce of Hufflepuff?
I think I'm Gryffindor.
Shut up. Okay, well,
That's what Pottermore sorted me as.
I'm full
And-
Slytherin, by the
Yeah.
way.
Oh
So,
my God, that was no
like,
question
the
asked.
100%.
My
The
God.
thing everyone forgets about Slytherin is that they have great powers that they can use for good or evil. Do you know, they're great wizards, and then
Yes.
they just, whereas Gryffindor always go good, Slytherin can go either of two
Yeah.
ways. So I'm absolutely hard Slytherin. But your issue is you feel like, and which is not wrong, right, but the shell is misleading. Whereas I have the exact opposite problem where I'm like, right, the shell is fucked. We're fucked on the shell. The shell isn't going to bring in any customers whatsoever. So what we need to do,
Which is like insane.
yeah,
to
but we
me.
also have to say this because we're pals. But the shell is so you need to be the fucking jazziest, funniest, smartest, most like bells and whistles, like fucking juggling while you're like unicycling gal, and I think that's so that you get them. Like it's the exact opposite way around, and I think that's so if I was taking someone around a house, I'd be taking them around like actually like the house is fine, like the house is fine, but I'm like, but also sometimes fireworks just spontaneously come out in the garden, and I was like, do they? Like, big time. And then like, oh, but don't worry about it, we're putting in a pool. It's like, are you putting in a like, and there's a slide that comes down from the kids' room straight to the toaster. How cool. And I was like, but it's just, you don't need a slide that comes straight from, and you don't want me to go down. And you know, I think it's like a manic need to be like, don't look at the shell, look at all these other fun, mad, cool things that it's doing, like dun, 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 and then it'll take focus off the shell.
Right. See, I think
Quite a long analogy actually, that one.
I think I agree with taking focus off the shell, because I feel like the shell is like, sometimes it can look great and then sometimes it can look it's wearing a fucking helmet and walking down the street.
That's my favorite thing.
And I also feel like nothing is ever gonna be as good as like, I just feel like
That's what they think of you in the first time they see you.
yeah.
But that's what's so annoying about watching you navigate relationships, is that no one's ever corrected that mistake. Whereas like when I first met you, I was like, oh dang, like she's really hot. She's gonna be annoying and shit and like fancy herself. And the reason we're pals is you're not. And and so it was. My favorite thing about you is the not what you look like for me. And I think the guys that like our male friends on the comedy scene, it's been a really similar journey where they're like, there's no fucking way this girl's going to be a good hang because she looks like she does. And then you're the fucking greatest hang and the biggest nerd and everyone loves you for it. Like, and so but the guys you've had romantic relationships with have not backed up the good stuff.
Well, but I think it's also been and I think that's the most like difficult thing of being like, oh, this person knows me and they still don't want it.
That's the fucking one.
To get somebody to like me.
No, I know, it's hideous.
And after having displayed it and being like, this is it, this is what you're getting.
Yeah.
And to be like, oh, that's just not enough.
I know, but it's again, and I feel like it's because he who must not be named did it, because actually it's such. It would be. But
I think it was like, even with the previous guy I was seeing, like it was. I was there, and I was like so present, and I was so like I was just. It was great, and we had great conversations. We had a lot in common, and then it was always like him complaining about how he missed his ex and not how he misses, or like how sad he was about his ex and like just like loads of things. And I remember he came out to California, and like I'd planned this whole trip for us. We were gonna drive to Mexico because I knew he wanted to go, and I planned this whole thing, and I got him like the most specific birthday stuff that was so like him.
Yeah.
And 2 days before, he phoned me and he was like, I'm just really sad this birthday because like I spent the last 2 with my ex. And I'm like, oh my God, I've just like spent money on your birthday gift, but I've also like planned this whole weekend to make sure that you have a good birthday.
But do you know what's wild about that? Is that's all his shit and all him not being able to. He can't afford you. Like he doesn't have the funds, the emotional funds. He just can't afford you. But what's the horrifying part about that is, and by the way, we as we both know, we're both in that situation far more than we care to admit, is we've let it get there.
Yeah.
From the off, we know. From the off, we know when someone can't afford us.
Yeah.
Like from the off, you know, and like you're gonna come up short. You're gonna come in short. You haven't got the funds available, but I'm gonna let you have me for 50% off. We've known from the off.
Yes.
And
I think this is also a really good analogy that you use of like putting
the discount rate. Yeah.
You explain it.
How I just think that women are far worse than men for like knowing their value and sticking to it. So let's say we both cost £1,000. That's how much we cost.
Okay. Oh, right.
No, it's short, but like for the sake of the analogy,
1,000.
We cost £1,000. That's how much we cost. We cost £1,000.
Can I get 1,001?
Can I get 1,001? No. And but we'll take 33% of that. We cost £1,000. So quickly, someone will come along and be like, "Oh, it's just a bit much for me." Like, well, that's fine because I'm on the discount rail suddenly, and it's actually now 500, and it's bollocks. Yeah. Guys will be like, "No, it costs £1,000. If you don't have it, you can't get it."
Yeah.
And we go, "Oh, fuck it, maybe I am a bit greedy." And we cost £1,000 fucking pounds.
I feel like guys will be like, "I cost £1,000."
Yeah, and they're a bit of like lint strapped to an Android, and you're like, "What? No, this is not £1,000 phone."
No, but then they think they increase in value. They're like, "But I'm only getting like
they fucking do.
Tomorrow I'm 1,001."
They do. They get more.
They do.
I
think it's like a.
How do they do it? But they genuinely do it. It's why like. We had it. Where was I at recently? I think I was with like one of my mates who's again fucking banging, and this like crusty 53-year-old man came up to us, and you're like, I mean, obviously you're mental, like you're mental, but he came up and was like, "Hi, ladies," and you're like, you can't surely have thought like, "Yes, king," and maybe he did, and I'm trying not to be unkind, but you're like, buddy, you're fucking mental.
But like that's how I feel like when I'm wearing my helmet and saying hi to that guy. I'm like, oh, he's like, oh, she's not well. She's not well to be like.
No, the helmet is that shows that he saw you for you, which is just a big nerd walking down the street with a helmet on. I love that you did that so much. I do think the devaluing is so second nature to all of us. Is it all of us? I don't know.
I think it's especially women, because I'm like, what is it? What's the defining factor that have like women? Because I know some women who were like, I won't take less than this. Like this is it.
But you know them, or have you seen them on Instagram? Exactly. Exactly.
No, I have one friend who's really like, I won't take less than this. Like I won't
Okay.
do and like she's really, really good for it. And she puts it down to the way her father raised her. And the way her father was like basically laid it all out of like, men are gonna do this to you and they're not gonna be great, but you gotta have this and this and this and this. And like, because it's really interesting because like you grew up with a really, really strong,
very, very strong father figure.
Yeah.
And very, very emotionally available,
Right.
very supportive, very encouraging father figure
Right.
who loves me immensely.
right.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this,
Yeah.
and because like obviously I didn't grow up with a father figure. And I had my grandpa, and then I had my mom's partner Brant when I was young as well, like or when I was I'd say about 10, like and so that, but it would have never been like there's nothing like you.
There's nothing like
having a father. So I think that your situation is really interesting as well because you've put it down to because he was so amazing.
Yeah.
It's hard to find somebody that's
I think but at the same time I think there's another flip on that, and I've been like thinking about it quite a lot recently. Because and my dad's still around, I mean, he's still here, he's still alive, and we're very, very close as ever. It means that I'm not demanding
right.
those qualities of anyone else. So the caretaking, the genuine love and support, the being my biggest supporter, I have in spade loads from this man who raised me, which means I'm not asking it for anyone else, which means I'm like, oh, I'm good for that. I'm good for that. So you can be a lost boy who I have to caretake and gives nothing back. And I think it's that thing, isn't it, of like the way you love, you've learnt as a child.
Right.
I learnt caretaking, I learnt pedestaling, I learnt buoying people up. But because I've got it, and my family are incredibly supportive for them, you know, obviously we all have our bad days, but like I'm not demanding it of a partner. So I think for the most part, I don't get it back from a romantic partner. I've never really got it back from a romantic partner who's, they think I'm like a good girl and like they'll be supportive and whatnot. But I think, I think I settle for a lot less from that end, from a fella. Yeah. Because I'm like, well, I'm all set.
But I do also think you've had this, you've brought this up about like you have that with your friend group as well. Like I don't need these qualities from somebody because I'm got it right now.
But that's the thing. Like I wrote this bit about like if you are like, I am emotionally loved and cared for. I'm intellectually stimulated. I am conversationally in awe of all these people I spend all this time with who are part of me. Which means that when it comes to fellas, I can just go for abs. and it is like sometimes. I mean, I remember going out with the 4.5 year relationship, and we were together for 4.5 years. Like we were, you know, in love and all the rest of it. Still, if something went wrong, he knew I was going to peace out and go see Hannah. Like he knew that Hannah was where I was going to go. Like, or James or whoever. Like, and it was never him, which meant that bizarrely my breakups have been relatively easy, I think, compared to other people, because my emotional support system is already in place and they are never a part of it.
But do you think that's the defense mechanism of having them not be?
Yeah, 100%. I think, and that's what me and my therapist are talking about, which is, have you actually ever really made space for someone? Like really made space, not just made time in your diary or made like space in your bed or included someone on holiday plans. Have I ever really genuinely made space for someone in my life who I expected to stay, who I want to stay, who is good enough for me to believe should stay? Right. Or have they always been this like, yeah, great, a really hot guy who is, I mean, if I get a guy who is physically attractive, I'm like, the fucking schwinn! And that's the thing, because I'm like, oh, the other stuff I have, like the other stuff I'm good for. So if you're banging naked, beautiful. Yeah. And it is absolutely that. Have you ever really made space for someone who I thought I wanted to keep? Yeah. And the window of you thinking to change that and being like, maybe I would make space, it happened to be a fucking asshole. The sweaty boy. Sweaty boy. But no, I'd say
you mean
Chicago.
I'd say the crab. Yeah, I think you had that window of like this maybe might be it. This could. There was a moment. It changed from like no to being like it was open for a second.
Well, that was what was so awful about it, is I think the drawbridge started coming down. after however many years of it not. And then that happened, and it's like,
Yeah.
not only did it snap back up, but it got fucking bolted. Like,
Right.
it got bolted and chained, closed. And I think, yeah.
No, I think with the sweaty one, I still wouldn't say that you were fully, because there were so many moments where I was like, does he know? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I still think it was like you opened yourself up to the feeling,
yeah.
but I don't think you opened yourself up to the actual.
I mean, I left the country. Like, I say all this thing of like, oh, I got the feels, and then left the country for 4 months.
I think there's such a thing of like, I run away, and I have historically run away from any issue. I'm just like, I don't live here anymore.
Yeah.
I've changed my address.
Like, and in my head, I'm always like, no, it's a new adventure and it's a new chapter. And you're like, you're
you're
Hatty
running away.
Preston, you've done it again. And I'm such a runner.
Yeah.
But we have to stop doing that, really.
Oh, we have to start building this foundation to really like, because it's running away from your like.
But knowing it's gonna hurt, like this thing that we're both, and I think both holding each other accountable for this year, like, and we've said we're going to, is this is going to hurt.
But
this is going to hurt.
It's so scary.
It's really scary.
It's
but
so
actually,
scary.
The other stuff has hurt. So why not?
Yeah,
Like
I don't know. I think it's like. It's a pain that you're familiar with, though.
Yeah, I know.
And I think it's like, that's why it's okay. It was okay for me to repeatedly get hurt.
Mm-hmm. I know, but because it's like kids who like, my brother has never been stung by a bee or a wasp. He's never been stung.
Me neither.
Have you never?
Never.
He is absolutely terrified of them. He's terrified. Like he's Archie's tall and big and smart and capable. He screams like a baby girl when a bee or a wasp comes out. It's hysterical, but he's just like, and I was like, the sting is never going to be as bad as the fear of the sting.
Right.
It's never going to be.
It's like with waxing. Like, I think waxing, it's you're not, the actual thing doesn't hurt as much as the anxiety of being
also,
like,
but they're always like, can you relax? And you're like, but as soon as you go, bam, it's like,
done.
It's fine.
It's
but it's the like, no.
Yeah.
Breakups hurt. They fucking hurt. I mean, where you were at this summer, where I was at back in 2016, they hurt and they wipe you out and it's awful. And then that stops hurting.
Yeah.
Then it stops. And it hasn't killed. We're not dead. Do you know what I mean? We've survived all of the things.
Question.
No question. But like, we've
we
survived
have
it
survived.
all. And I think, and yet we're so scared of doing it again. It's like, yeah, but we will do it again. We will do it again.
But I think it's like
again.
we're stopping ourselves from doing it again. Like, I am so reserved in anything new. I'm like so vulnerable in anything that's been past, because I'm like, well, I already went there before.
I know.
And I'm like, but even also the thought of intimacy just scares me. I'm like,
oh my God. The like literal physical intimacy.
Like the physicality of it. I'm like, something's.
Oh God, yeah, you got really stressed out about kissing in Edinburgh, didn't you?
Kissing.
Yeah.
I won't kiss. Like, I'm like so scared. Whereas like when I was like in college, we all went through the phase, like, going out and whatever. But I'm like, now I think because I haven't done it often, I'm like, it's gonna be bad, and then they're gonna say it, and then it's gonna go on Hello Magazine.
Can I say, if I opened Hello Magazine and there was an article about you having kissed a boy in Edinburgh, the greatest fucking that'd be a slow week for news, is what? Like, at a time, this is
would be the busiest time.
This is a time we should do it, because Prince Harry is really like killing the game of newspaper pages. This is the time to go out and do this, because we won't make the pages.
Well, I mean, that's exactly why. I mean, in hindsight, thank God I have this anxiety, because oh my God, I would have been so mad at myself.
I know.
But
I know if it had come out.
Yeah.
So funny.
No, but it's just things like that. Like sex in any intimacy. I'm like having somebody know me. I'm like, ooh.
But sex isn't. So sex is. I feel like I can detach on that. Like, I can. Sex is like sex and am I going to say it? Fucking yeah. Sex and like making love are two different sports. Like, I can lie there and have sex and make the noises and do the moves, and like it will be a lovely time. And then the
this is an advert
for me, and we'll include my number.
It'll be on Patreon.
It'll be
but for free.
with a photo of one nipple.
We also are on OnlyFans.
Fabulous. But But yeah, I like the sex thing is whatever. It's not even me. It's like this. It's the shell, isn't it? It's the body. But like the body is
the,
like,
the body.
It's the body.
It's the body.
But it's like, God, like the when you're really with someone. Like,
yeah.
When you're with someone and like exactly what you said, like. They could see you, like could see you. They could know you. They could know you with your glasses on. They could know you with a bad skin day, and they could know you crying about something that's ridiculous, and then be like, "Nah." And you're like, "Oh,
right.
Beam me off the planet now. Beam me gone." And I don't know. Yeah.
See, I tried to work it out as a bit, and it's not a bit. I mean, but I have this theory that I've actually never had good sex because it's never been with somebody I like fully trust.
Yeah.
I think when you're in all these situationships and stuff like that, like I think one time it was amazing, and then he moved back to like where he was from, and it was and I moved here, like or like it was just
it was just a time.
It was every other time has been filled with anxiety of being like well, like, is he with other people, or is he like is it it's never been enjoyable. Like I've never been fully like.
Have we talked about this? What was your first? Who we talked about this with? No, it wasn't you. What was your first sexual experience?
It was with a guy who I think it was very much so. I kind of just wanted to lose it before I went to college. I didn't want to go to college like having and this could have been the V card, but instead it's the green card. And thank you to
Bleep for
thank you to
fucking out my V card. So he's who you slept with, your first one?
Yeah, so he's the one. And then
and how was it?
I mean, honestly, I thought he was still fingering me.
Right, I know you've told me about this. It was not a finger.
Also, yeah, it was not. I was like, oh my God. Like, I'm like, does this count?
Yeah, it does.
Like,
it does, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
But I have a theory about this. I think much like, your early formative years as a child shapes who you are as an adult, your first formative experiences of sex shapes how you feel about it going forward. And if your first time was not particularly trusting and not particularly physically like fulfilling and not particularly like intimate, like it wasn't an intimate experience, then actually that's sort of the association you have on it. So it's up to someone to change that rather than for that to already be in place.
Right.
Because I was having this chat with my mate in the States over the summer, and similarly her early sexual experiences are pretty like non-intimate. I mean, I think hers is slightly different where like she was drinking a lot of the time, so it was all a bit of a free-for-all and didn't like the guys, and it was again a lot of the I need to lose my virginity, like a lot of that. Whereas I do think because my first experience of it was wonderful, and I'm not trying to solve
boyfriend.
The first one. And
how old were you?
19.
Okay.
So I'd held out and
held out. Fuck me. I held out.
I was at an all-girls school. Like that was holding out. Like they were dropping at 14, and I just like, no, I want to. I'd watched the Dawson's Creek episode, when Joey loses it, and I was like, no, I want to, and he'd been trying and for ages and ages and liked me so much and made it so clear how much he liked me and wanted to be my boyfriend. And I was going to university, and I was like, I'm not going to university with a boyfriend of a week. Like that's insane. It was my first year. And just gradually over it, he just proved himself to be someone who I could trust and who was safe and who liked me so much. And it was so lovely, and I'd never really had it. And eventually I was like, I'll be your girlfriend. We didn't have sex that night or anything like that, but I was like, I'll be your girlfriend. And we had this just really intimate, and then a month or so, 2 months later, he came to visit me at university, and we had sex in my room, and it was perfect. Yeah. But it was perfect. It was perfect. It was everything I could have wanted it to be. It was so loving. And we went on to have brilliant sex. Like he really enjoyed sex and really enjoyed just the physicality of it. And he was very like, he's a rugby player, so he's big and athletic, and like,
is he the one that kicked you?
Yeah, big.
Okay.
It was very passionate. And like we had even now I'm telling this story about how lucky I am with the sex, and you're like, the one that kicked you, and you're like, yeah, big time. Just like, we don't hear it, do we? He was so incredible. He was so physical. He was so passionate. Did he kick you? Yeah, no, he kicked me.
Yeah, but
Back to the passion, Katie. Thank you. And back to how safe he made me feel. Anyway. Oh my God. We're going to die alone. Oh my God, we're going to die alone. We're going to die alone so hard. But it was. And I think as such, I have whilst I don't necessarily have a very relationship with men all the time, I have an incredibly healthy relationship with sex where I know how physically satisfying I find it and how much I genuinely enjoy it.
Right.
So I don't, the whole like intimacy stuff, I get my kegs off and have a nice time, but I know it's different with someone I really like. I do know it's different, but I still love it. Like I love the action of it. I can have, like in Chicago with all those boys who I was never, ever, ever going to be in a relationship with, but we had a great time physically. Like really good.
Yeah, see, I've never been a big one night stand. I think it's because I just don't like giving men power. Like, I think I'm like, there's no situation where I feel like if this is a one time thing that I'm going to be satisfied in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. And I think it just gives you power.
Yeah, I love that.
But it's like I'm like, it's incredibly limiting for myself because I think it doesn't allow me to be like, let me explore sexuality and let me explore like being with different guys. And
but it's also interesting that you go into a sexual contract, as it were, because that's what it is. If you just both decide to have sex with each other, it's a contract of sorts.
Yeah, I make him sign.
Yeah. Well, obviously I do as well, blood. But that your thing is like, I don't want to give them this power. Instead of going in being like, I'm about to give myself pleasure. Yeah. You're gonna provide me with pleasure, and so already the hierarchy's off for you where you're like, oh, I don't want to provide them pleasure. It's like, fuck them. No. Like I want to be, that's why the brave little crab stuck around. Yeah, he provided me with so much pleasure. I will say I was one of the laziest lovers I've ever been in my life with brave little crab. Like of all the ways I have had sex in the past, brave little crab, I barely lifted a finger. Wow. Because I was like, I don't care, like, yeah, fuck it. And he was so talented that I think I did just a bit. I just I think for the most part I did a bit of like just lying there. Wow. I mean, I just sort of pull my weight kind of at the end because you sort of have to, but it was so heavily weighted in my favor in terms of enjoyment.
Yeah, I think nothing has ever been really fully weighted in my favor. I mean, and in any time where there had been efforts, it wasn't I want to do this for you. It was like I've got to make it up to you. I remember the first argument I had, and it was a massive argument. I was like, I'm done. Nope. I'm gonna sign up for this. And then it was after that when he was like, I'm going to make you come. And I'm like, oh, this is you trying to apologizing by horrible oral sex. Like,
do you think that? Or do you think it was if someone said that to me, oh my God, I'd have done it in a McDonald's.
So
that's the nicest thing in the world.
My body would not allow him to satisfy me. It's like genuinely.
It's like a power thing.
It was like, I remember him coming up with like fucking broken fingers and being like, please.
I'm pruned.
Yeah, being like, I'm so dehydrated. Anything. And me just being like, you were almost there.
Oh my God,
you
that
almost
is my
had
favorite thing in the world that you've said.
Yeah.
You got me like a shipwreck victim. Like he
just came out like Davy Jones. Like,
is it over? Nope.
Anything. Make it stop. And I'm like, my body was like, absolutely not.
Did you try just thinking of Trevor Noah when he was down there?
I always think about Trevor Noah, and you know what?
Didn't work?
Yeah, maybe because of his last special. Oh my God. Cut that out! Cut it out!
I think we should end on that. That is such shade to end this on. I think we should.
This has been absolute pleasure. And this has been Hatty Preston. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
This beautiful conversation we've had. Mm-hmm. And I'm really proud. Like we didn't cry. I
cried before the pod. Yeah. We weren't going to include that, but I did actually have a cry before the pod so that I could get it out before the pod.
We are women and we are strong.
Let's do this again in a year's time and see if I've cried before the pod then. That's going to be my aim. That's going to be my thing, is come back again in a year and see if I'm so much better that I haven't cried.
Oh, what's your favorite green thing? Is that a bad question? I'll get that out.
That's your clip. What's your favorite green thing?
I say this week it would be Shrek. Wait.
No, that's your clip. What's your favorite green thing? What's your favorite green thing? Hey, Katie, why did you want to start a podcast? I just want to know what everyone's favorite green thing is. What's the USP? Just so to avoid being another comedian who just has a pod about nothing, what's your angle going to be? I want to ask every comedian on the scene what their favorite green thing is. We absolutely did not talk. You've never brought that to me. If you said to me, Hattie, I want to start a podcast because I want to know what everyone's favorite green thing is, I would have shut this down before you brought all these things. Before you bought that desk, before you bought this microphone, before you bought these stands. I just said, nope, no. My favorite green thing is you.
Oh my God. I'm just crying considering how much money I spent on this without actually having an idea of how to do things. This has been so much fun.
I love you.
I love you. Thank you so much for listening. See you next week.